Africa Today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahaba Kajur, but first are the headlines. Museveni loses first round in battle to withhold bail for murder suspects. And Ugandans urged to embrace rural foods and regular exercises. Malian Prime Minister welcomed by supporters in Bamako. And in our sports today, out goes Kisala as Marara City announced Mbalangu Senyange on interim basis. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, the NRM Parliamentary Caucus has rejected the proposal by President Museveni to have an amendment in the Penal Code Act banning granting of bail to the murder suspects and those accused of committing grave offences, sources have told us. Speaking during the 4th annual Bench Chiwanuka Memorial Lecture at the High Court grounds in Kampala, the President insisted that those accused of murder should not be granted bail. The President insisted that it is not fair for someone accused of having killed another person to be seen walking free on streets after being granted bail. He noted that the issue of granting bail to people accused of murder will make the public lose trust in government and especially the judiciary. In his speech, the Chief Justice Alphonse Oweni Dolo said that many factors are considered by judicial officers before granting bail to accused people, but insisted bail is a constitutional right. He said rules for grant of bail are set out and many factors are considered by judicial officers to ensure the accused person will turn back before granting bail. Moving on in our top stories, State Minister for Primary Health Care, Dr. Margaret Mohanga, has urged Ugandans to prevent cardiovascular diseases through making regular exercises and eating rural foods. Now, she said this as Uganda commemorates World Heart Day under the theme Use Your Heart to Connect. We have more on this report.
Addressing journalists at the Government Media Center in Kampala, the State Minister for Primary Health Care, Dr. Margaret Mohanga, said cardiovascular diseases can be prevented through embracing health foods such as vegetables, fruits, water, etc., making regular exercises and avoiding drug intake.
Many of the diseases are avoidable. I also hear doctors about diseases of lifestyle. Some of them I think include diabetes and pressure. Those are diseases you can avoid by eating healthy food and exercising. Just two things. Eating healthy food and exercising. I therefore call upon all of you to join these doctors that have educated you today to do the needful to avoid the heart diseases.
Many of the heart diseases are brought about by the failure to balance food intake and exercises together with use of drugs. According to Uganda Heart Institute, 53% of deaths in Uganda are caused by cardiovascular diseases. Dr. John Omangino, a consultant cardiac surgeon at the Uganda Heart Institute, says more funds are needed to fight non-communicable diseases.
The truth is that it is an expensive service. There is nothing to say about that. Two, if you went abroad, you spend $20,000 at the least. If you have heart surgery at the Heart Institute, it is 5,000, already cutting it by 4 times. Next is now we are bringing on our collaborating teams, plus the corporate social world, to be able to start sponsoring children. So, like the media can sponsor 2 people, like the environment can. Other groups like Wansu have been doing that, MTN is doing that, to try and dampen that cost, but there is a waiver mechanism.
Cardiovascular diseases remain the biggest cause of deaths worldwide. More than 17 million people died from CVDs in 2008. More than 3 million of these deaths occurred before the age of 60 and could have largely been prevented. The percentage of premature deaths from CVDs ranges from 4% in high-income countries to 42% in low-income countries, leading to growing inequalities in the occurrence and outcome of CVDs between countries and populations. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Moving on in local stories, opposition MPs led by their leader Mathias Mpuga have told Tuesday afternoon walked out of parliament in protest against the rearrest of fellow legislator Mohamed Segirinya and Alan Sewanyana. We have more on this report.
Kawempe North Member of Parliament Segirinya and Sewanyana of Makinde West, who had been granted bail by court, were rearrested by security, traveling in Toyota Hiace vehicles, commonly referred to as drones, outside the Chigo prison premises, in a manner that has been condemned by many. On Tuesday, the Parliament demanded the Attorney General to explain the rearrest of the legislators. In response, the Attorney General Chiriowa Chiwanuka told the Parliament that the two legislators will soon be arraigned in courts of law, but insisted that they can be rearrested as many times as the offences committed. However, this statement didn't augur well with opposition legislators, led by the leader of opposition in Parliament, Mathias Mpuga, who then stormed out of Parliament. Mpuga said he found the statement by the Attorney General disturbing and legally scandalous, and consequently withdrew his team from the debate he said considered vulgar.
We have been patient with the state when our members were summoned and eventually charged. We advised them to follow all manner of procedure prescribed in handling their matter. After all, it was an accusation, not a conviction. But our patience ran out when the state turned criminal on the accused and did abduct them without recourse to the law. And when we came to the House to raise these matters before the House of Parliament, the government side did not have a response, but parroting arrogance, the same arrogance that we are used to. And for us, the only option at our disposal is to withdraw our presence from the state machinery that is part of Parliament, and we said we cannot participate in a debate where the state can't explain in unequivocal terms the whereabouts of our members and the manner of their arrest, which we regard illegal and abusive of the sanctity of Parliament and the rights of these citizens. So we withdrew our presence from the House of Parliament as a sign of protest from this unconstitutional conduct by the state.
On Monday, police spokesperson Fred Enanga said the rearrest of the two legislators was connected to fresh treason charges that they are supposed to answer. The two opposition legislators had earlier been arrested, taken to court and remanded to Chigo for allegedly participating in the recent spate of murders in Masaka region, where 25 people were hacked to death by unknown assailants who had raided villages at night with machetes.
Thank you so much, reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. Moving on, in our international news, Malian Transitional Prime Minister Choguel Maiga has been welcomed by ministers and a crowd of supporters upon his return to Mali from New York at the United Nations General Assembly, where he blamed France for withdrawing its forces from his country. We have more on this report.
In his speech on Saturday, Maiga reproached France from the drawdown of the Bakame mission, saying that it was an abandonment of Mali, a claim France refutes. According to Habib Silla, president of the High Council of Malians living abroad, the crowd were there not only to show their support for the speech delivered by the Malian Prime Minister, but also to reiterate their expectations. Habib added that Malian people are all behind current government transition and are the ones who have entrusted the destiny of their country to this crack team on whom they are counting. He said that they are ready to be their shield wherever the need arises. Mali's army-dominated government in Bamako is reportedly close to hiring 1,000 Wagner paramilitaries from Russia, a move France warned would isolate Mali internationally.
Moving on, Paris will sharply reduce the number of visas granted to people from Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia, accusing the former French colonies of not doing enough to allow illegal immigrants to return, according to a government spokesman. We have more on this report. A French government spokesman said on Tuesday that the decision was prompted by the refusal by former colonies Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco to take back people unwanted by Paris. While appearing on Europe 1 radio, Gabriel Attal said that it was a drastic decision and unprecedented, one of not taking back nationals who are not wanted or cannot be kept in France. The station first reported the visa clampdown earlier Tuesday, saying President Emmanuel Macron took the decision a month ago after failed diplomatic efforts with the 3 North African countries. Immigration is shaping up to be a key issue in the next year's French presidential election, when Macron is widely expected to face off again against the far-right leader Marine Le Pen. When visa requests are denied, French authorities must still secure a consular pass in order to forcibly expel individuals to their home countries, a document that Paris says Algiers, Rabat, and Tunis are refusing to provide. According to Europe 1, citing administration figures, Macron has ordered the number of visa deliveries to Algeria and Morocco to be halved from 2020 levels and by a third for Tunisia. It said that in the case of Algeria, French courts had rejected 7,731 visa requests in the first 6 months of this year. Yet because consular passes had not been granted, only 22 individuals had been expelled from French territory. Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, South Africa's ruling ANC on Monday unveiled its manifesto for upcoming local elections, vowing to renew itself, woo back supporters, and stop opposition inroads. We have more on this report.
In a televised event, President Cyril Ramaphosa launched his party's manifesto from a public square in the capital Pretoria on Monday, pledging a reformed party while admitting they had made mistakes in the past. He pledged the people of South Africa that they will do better, much better than they have done in the past. The African National Congress's campaign has already been in full swing for the past 2 weeks, with Ramaphosa leading party officials crisscrossing impoverished towns and villages. Nomvula Mokonyane, head of organizing and campaigns for African National Congress, spoke of the party's main agenda. The party's primary targets is the youth. The African National Congress Party, which has ruled South Africa since the end of apartheid in 1994, suffered its worst electoral setback during the last local polls in 2016, eking out just under 54% nationally while losing an absolute majority in 5 of the 6 largest cities, including Johannesburg and Pretoria.
Moving on, Eritrean Foreign Minister Osman Salih accused the United States of meddling in its affairs after Washington announced restrictions on economic and security assistance over Tigray. Now, the comment came from Salih during a pre-recorded message to the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Eritrean Foreign Minister Osman Salih accused the United States and its European allies of defending the Tigray People's Liberation Front's illicit and dangerous acts of insurrection and mayhem and marshal all the tools at their disposal to rehabilitate it at any cost. In May, the U.S. sanctioned Eritrea's defense chief over the army's role in the Tigray conflict. In September, U.S. President Joe Biden threatened new sanctions targeting individuals he said were preventing a ceasefire and obstructing the delivery of humanitarian aid in war-torn areas. War erupted last November after forces loyal to Tigray's ruling party attacked a federal army base killing soldiers and looting ammunition. In late June, the rebels rejected the government-declared ceasefire, launching attacks on the neighboring Amhara and Afar regions where they have been accused of committing massacres. They have since vowed to topple Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government. The war has triggered a hunger crisis and threatened stability in Africa's second most populous country. Thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, tourism as a key driver of global growth post-pandemic. This is the call made by the over 1,500 participants, including government officials, representatives of international organizations, and the private sector who covered in Abidjan for the World Tourism Day 2021 celebrations on Monday. We have more on this report.
Tourism is one of the sectors hardest hit by the pandemic, affecting incomes and millions of jobs worldwide. But with the help of vaccines, countries are beginning to ease restrictions on movement, lifting curbs on air travel and gradually restarting tourism in the process. However, reopening the sector remains a long way off in Africa, where a shortage of vaccines has upended efforts to slow the pandemic. Siandou Fofana, Ivory Coast's Minister for Tourism and Leisure, said in a post-COVID context that this was the first time the tourism world is getting together and was on Ivorian soil, adding that they have been able to mobilize a little more than 122 countries attending physically and remotely. Opening that day, the United Nations World Tourism Organization Secretary General Zurab Pololikashvili stressed the sector's commitment to inclusive growth so that tourism's restart brings hope for millions worldwide and ensures that everyone who has a stake in tourism also has a say in its future. Pololikashvili also hailed the richness and diversity of African culture and called on countries to market heritage as a tourist attraction. According to a United Nations World Tourism Organization report, the number of international tourists has dropped from nearly 1.5 billion in 2019 to 398 million in 2020.
Away from business, in a health news today, independent investigators mandated by the World Health Organization to probe allegations of sexual abuse by its staff in the Democratic Republic of Congo have cited clear structural failures and individual negligency in a report released on Tuesday. We have more. According to the Commission's report, the abuses were committed by personnel hired locally as well as members of international teams in the country to fight an Ebola outbreak from 2018 to 2020. The Commission interviewed dozens of women who were offered work in exchange for sex or who were victims of rape. The 35-page report paints a grim picture, nothing the scale of incidents of sexual exploitation and abuse in the response to the 10th Ebola outbreak, all of which contributed to the increased vulnerability of alleged victims who were not provided with necessary support and assistance required for such degrading experiences. The World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom told a press conference on Tuesday that the report makes for harrowing reading. The World Health Organization Africa Chief Matshidiso Moeti apologized on behalf of the World Health Organization leadership to the people, the women and the girls. The Special Commission cited individual negligence that may amount to professional misconduct in the report. It also said it found clear structural failures and unpreparedness to manage the risks of incidents of sexual exploitation and abuse in the poor Central African country. In our sports news today, management of Mbarara City Football Club has on Tuesday, 28th September 2021, officially announced CAF A licensed Hussein Mbalangu on interim basis as their manager. Now Mbalangu will work with Ahmed Kadidi Senyange as the immediate assistant coach. Our reporter has more.
The announcement means that Kefa Chisala, who had been working as head coach since 10th August 2021, is no longer serving in a portfolio following a mutual contract termination clause enforced after irreconcilable differences between the two parties at play. The development also extinguishes the talk of possible appointment for anyone else apart from Mbalangu. TV Africa has also established that the club had reportedly approached Paul Chiwanuka, a former Vipers coach, and Edward Golola, now at Toro United Football Club. Chisala and Mbarara City management agreed in a principle over a number of concerns relating to recruitment of players, unavailability of training gear and other support equipment among the factors at play. For Mbalangu, it was a complete blessing having mutually terminated his contract at Arua Hill, a side that he helped get promoted unbeaten from 2nd Division to Star Times Uganda Premier League. He also coached Bugoba the Saints, now defunct, Buganda regional side Azam, Somalia top tier entity Mogadishu City Council, Chagwe Saza team, and lately Arua Hill of 2nd Division. To that effect, Mbalangu also commenced official duties at Mbarara City, and he is working alongside Senyange, formerly at Paida Black Angels.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Before we end the bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. Museveni loses first round in battle to withhold bail for murder suspects. And Ugandans urged to embrace rural foods and regular exercises. Malian Prime Minister welcomed by supporters in Bamako. And in our sports today, out goes Chisala as Mbarara City announced Mbalangu Senyange on interim basis. Thank you so much for being part of us. For more We Started From, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.